What do the Oklahoma Sooners have to do to beat Navy?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm John Williams. He's Jay Smith. We got our final game day preview right here on Locked On Sooners. Just one more left. OU, Navy, Armed Forces Bowl. Let's go.
It's kind of crazy to hear that this is it. We're about to hit the end of 2024. We're going to be rolling right into 2025. And the final game of the season begins on Friday at 11 o'clock Central Time. It's Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time, John. It's just crazy. The year's over. I'm excited, though. I'm actually excited about the game because I'm ready to see Michael Hawkins play.
Let's go.
But yeah. We're done. The year's over. John, we've got here. We have made it all the way through basically the end of December. How does that feel?
It flew by, man. I know this season probably felt long for a lot of people because Oklahoma went 6-6 and it didn't go how anybody wanted it to. But man, it just seems like just a few days ago that we were here getting ready for the Friday, August 26th game where Oklahoma's getting ready to play Temple on a Friday night. And then we're going to finish the season with a Friday game, go from a prime time to start the season to an 11 a.m. kick to end the season. It's all coming full circle, but it's going to be a really intriguing game to watch, if anything, because we're going to get to see a lot of names and a lot of players that we haven't really gotten to see a lot of this year. Brent Venables mentioned that they have just over 50 players ready to play in this game, including 12 true freshmen on both sides of the football. And I expect we see them use everybody in this one to give everybody some experience. But on offense, Jay, what's the thing that you're looking to see Oklahoma do on Friday?
Two things. One, Michael Hawkins throwing the ball, like physically taking the ball and throwing it forward. That's the thing to keep your eyes on, because Navy's defense isn't the greatest. And I was listening to Gabe and Teddy over Oklahoma Breakdown, and Gabe made a really good point in watching the film on Navy and their defense, and dudes was running right past them. So we've got speedsters that, supposedly we've heard they're really fast and they could play. Probably should use them. And because we are a lot bigger in size in comparison to Navy and the way their front is set up, we should be able to have time for Michael Hawkins to step in the pocket and throw it deep, regardless of who's on the offensive line right now. We still basically we have a starter level offensive line. Maybe not something you want to start in the SEC too much, but we have starter level for any other conference. So we should be good there to get the blocks. I'm ready to see, if anything to watch for, it's going to be Michael Hawkins throwing the ball. I expect Ivan Carrion to get a whole bunch of catches. I expect Zion Kearney to get some burn and some catches. Zion Ragin should be able to outrun folks and get at least one deep touchdown, if not two. Jacob Jordan should get some catches across the middle. Vaughn Mitchell, give me some tight end love. Him, Caden Helms, Kate McIntyre. I just want to see Michael Hawkins throw the ball, and I'm happy. What about you?
Yeah, I don't want to see them come in with a conservative game plan that takes the air out of the football and tries to play the way Navy wants to play. No. To me, if you want to develop your quarterback who has the talent, we've seen some of the good things that he can do this year. If you want to develop him, the best thing to do is to let him go throw it. Now, I'm not sitting here saying you're going to go throw it 50 times, because that just hasn't been your game plan this year. But you want to just have a balanced offensive attack. I get that run game has kind of been the best part of your offense over the last month. It didn't really have a great game against LSU to finish the season, rushing the football. But just go into it with a balanced game plan and a balanced approach. If some things aren't clicking, aren't working, then you can lean on the run game and you can kind of make some things easier on Michael Hawkins. But I expect that they'll also try to utilize his legs a little bit, let him get out in space on some naked bootlegs, on some read option stuff, just to allow him to get into the open field a little bit, use his speed. And then as they soften Navy's defense up with the run, use some play action, try to push the ball down the field, and try to create something down the field. The passing game hasn't clicked all year. Hey, why not finish on a high note and go out guns blazing?
Yeah, you may as well. You may as well go ahead and just, go out there like it's the last game of the season. YOLO all game long. I just, all I want to see is Hawkins pass the ball a lot. I need to see at least 25 passes in this game. Throw it. Because, granted, we know that the run game is going to see success. There's no doubt about it in my mind that the run game will be able to get established with whoever runs it. So far, it's what Sawchuk, X-Rob, and Tatum are basically your running backs, because Barnes isn't on the depth chart, if I'm correct. So since that's the case, the expectation is that you're going to be able to run the ball.
Sam Franklin.
Right. Sam Franklin's up. Yeah, that's who it was. It's you got Gavin Sawchuk, Sam Franklin, Taylor Tatum, and Xavier Robinson. That's your 4 backs. I expect Sawchuk to run for almost 100 yards in this game. He should. There's no excuse not to. We have the blocking, the scheming for it. But there's one other thing, though, John, that I was thinking about. Somebody made mention about this game on the offense to keep an eye out for. Do you see Ben Arbuckle weaving some of his offense into this, since he's the one working as the quarterback coach for Michael Hawkins? Because to me, I can see him adding 5-7 plays in there. Now, of course, not a full playbook, but 5 or 7 plays tossed in there with this team and giving them something new to practice going into this game. Does that sound right? Does it sound off base?
I think it sounds reasonable for the time frame that you'd have to implement some things. Will they do that? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me to see some spread schematics in this,
right,
where they try to go 4 or 5 wide and use some of those concepts. But I think it's going to be a lot of what we've seen this year, playbook wise. Hopefully not as many tight end throwback passes as we saw during the regular season with Joe John Finley. I don't know if Jake Roberts has got much of an arm, but let's just not even try it. But I do think that they will try to lean heavily on the run game. Now, I'd be curious to see if he does implement any of his run concepts into the game plan. But I think given the short period of time that you have to prepare for a bowl game, you only get 15 practices.
Right.
Given that short period of time, I don't think that they try to add too much, because what have we seen? Anytime that they've tried to add, specific wrinkles to the offense, it didn't really go well. I'm thinking the Texas game where they tried to run some of the triple option stuff themselves or some counter stuff with the quarterback. It didn't really go well. So I think what they will try to do is just lean into what Michael Hawkins does well, which, listen, I think he's a good runner. I think he's a good passer. That South Carolina game, I don't think is indicative at all of what kind of quarterback he can be for Oklahoma. But I think they will try to get the ball out of his hands quickly, allow him to make quick decisions and throw the ball. But this is a game that you do want to lean in on the run game with the 4 backs that you've got, with the offensive line playing the way it played towards the end of the season, and the fact that Navy ranks 80th in the nation in rushing yards allowed per game. I think that sets up well for a big rushing day for the Sooners.
We rushed for 200-something yards against Alabama, and they have a really good front. And they actually a really good rush defense. So if we're able to do that against a team, yeah, I 100% agree that against Navy, we should be able to do the exact same. The other thing, though, is we should be able to pass the ball in this game. There's no excuse for us to not be able to move the ball with passes, completions, people getting open, whatever, because, yeah, we have no excuse not to. So we're going to run the ball good. Better be able to pass it too.
Yeah. And it might be one of those games where they just decide, you know what, we're going to get in and out of Fort Worth without overexposing anybody or overexposing, our quarterback and our wide receivers that haven't really played a whole lot. And we're just going to lean in heavily on the run game because look, Tulane, when they beat them 35-0, Darian Mensah only threw the ball 12 times. And they ran for 220 yards in that game. So I don't know that that's going to be Oklahoma's attack. I would like to see them, like you, let Michael Hawkins throw it 25 plus times in this game, just to let him get his arm loose, get out there, finish the season with some game tape to be able to go into the offseason ready to build on what he's done in 2024. But what do we want to see on the defensive side of the ball? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that's happened to me, actually. I had a VPN from our time living overseas that I forgot that we still had a subscription for, but Rocket Money helped me find that and helped me track it down and cancel it. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on.
Yeah, and it's that time. The year is almost up. 2024 is finished. So check out our partners over at HomeField Apparel. They are hooking you up for the rest of the year. So you got a few more days. The holidays Christmas may have ended, but you can still get some of those last minute gifts there on their site. And they still got some of those boxes available. The football boxes we've talked about. You'll get 3 never before seen items for your school, as well as the VIP one gets you a VIP koozie and a platinum pass for the rest of the year. So you run out of time, but they've all got great vintage gear, from bomber jackets to sweaters, you name it, for your squad that you're taken care of. So go check them out. HomeFieldApparel.com. Use our code Sooner24 to get 15% off your first purchase. Go check them out over at HomeFieldApparel.com and get your vintage game on.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. So Jay, against the Navy midshipmen, a triple option team that's going to cause some problems for Oklahoma's defense, how do you expect them to respond to an offense they haven't seen in several years?
Yeah, it's been a bit. I'm not even sure if Zach Alley's actually seen this defense before in his time at Jacksonville State. So that's going to be a very good question of how they actually respond. But to me, I sense that it's going to be about the physicality of it. The more you push them around as they run their plays, the much better off you're going to be, because that kind of slows things down. If you toss a lineman to the side, push a running back down, and you get into the backfield before the play can truly develop, no matter if they hand it off or not, you'll have somebody there behind you to make sure that that play doesn't break off into something bigger. But that's going to be the biggest thing, John. It's going to be on Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie to make sure that they're communicating, make sure people understand their assignments, and actually do their assignment. Don't deviate. Don't get wandering eyes and starting to look at the player walking by saying, haven't seen anybody look like that before. No. Focus. Tunnel vision on your assignment. The more tunnel vision you are for your assignment, the much better you'll be off in this game, because the triple option can throw you off. Gabe and Teddy were talking about it heavy, and one of the big things that they mentioned, I think, is the one thing that's going to make things a lot tougher for Zach Alley and this defense and Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis trying to figure it out is when they run some of their options, they'll have like a screen on the backside available to throw. So they can run into like a play action and then they'll just flick it to the other side of the field. So if you keep wandering eyes in the backfield, you may miss out on the back going for a screen or a wide receiver stepping back for the screen. And that's a big opening on that side of the field, because the goal is to misdirect you. You got to stay gap sound. You got to stay focused. And I think that this defense is ready for that challenge.
You know, it's an aggressive defense. They want to get downhill and get downhill fast. And so that is an area where Oklahoma can get taken advantage of. We saw it throughout the year when teams did have some success against Oklahoma's defense. They were able to do so with some misdirection, with some throwback stuff. We saw it, I think, against Ole Miss. They tried some of that stuff as well, where, you know, it wasn't like a quarterback throwback for a screen. It was the quarterback rolling right and then throwing left, just trying to catch Oklahoma over pursuing. And that's going to be the key. Like you mentioned, playing assignment sound football and staying disciplined to what their keys are in the game. But I think it's an Oklahoma defense that's going to be a little much for what Navy's trying to do. You're really good in the interior, and that's going to take away one of those options. As Jaden Jackson and Dejon Terry and Dominic Williams and Grayson Halton and David Stone and all those guys on the interior, as they bottle everything up on the inside, it's going to force Navy to try and win wide. And that's where your Robert Spears Jennings and Kip Lewis's and Kobe McKenzie's, R. Mason Thomas, Ethan Downs, that's where those guys are going to feast.
Yes.
And if Oklahoma does play assignment sound football, it's going to be a really, really, really long day for Navy.
Yeah, it is. And trying to out-muscle us is the one thing that I don't expect this Navy team to be able to do. I mean, we were able to really muscle around Tulane. We were able to muscle around Houston. Same thing with Temple. And Navy's really good. The way that they run their option, they're very disciplined. So because they're so disciplined in their assignments and what they do, it makes it to where they can get those chunk yards. The fullback can get his yards. You'll see it in the different option plays. They'll get you 3, 4, 5 yards on a regular basis. Well, we're also one of the king programs of the tackles for loss, and that's what we're infamous for. And so for us, it's just as you said, as long as we maintain gap sound and even with our aggression, we get back there and get the tackle done early, we'll have a ton of tackles for loss, and that'll be just the name of the game. Now, Navy does throw the ball. That's their second offense. They do switch it up and toss the ball every once in a while. That's where the secondary is going to have to be super disciplined. Luckily, with Robert Spears Jennings back there and Peyton Bowen, you've got some veteran presence that had an understanding to not bite on too many things, but also make sure that you have somebody back in preparation for a deep pass. Because if they go into a play action on that triple option and try to pull the linebackers forward, they're going to either try to throw it across the middle or throw it deep really, really quick. If you ain't got anybody there, that's nothing but touchdown.
Yeah, I feel like with guys like Eli Bowen and the way that he's played, I know he got beat a couple times against LSU, but he's played really, really well this year. I feel like with him, you have a smart football player, someone who's not going to get caught cheating, so to speak. He's not going to get caught biting on what Navy's trying to do. He's a good tackler on the outside, so that helps funnel everything on to the inside to the rest of your defense when it's a run play. But then I'm not too concerned about Navy beating our guys one-on-one. So if you're playing a lot of single high safety, man on the outside, and then playing 8 in the box, I really like where Oklahoma's at in there. And I think they've got the guys, especially at like Cheetah with a Samuel Masigo, that can do a lot of different things for you. He's very versatile. And with the Robert Spears Jennings, who can come off the edge and blitz, he can cover, he can play the run. You've got some versatile players in addition to your linebackers that is going to make this defense kind of look more like a bear front where you're playing a 4-4 than maybe a typical 5-2-4 or 4-3 defense that you might see across college football. Oklahoma's got the dudes to make it look like a bear front and play a 4-4-3 and really make things really difficult for Navy.
Yeah, that would be fun. Running a 4-4-3 would be extremely entertaining to see us pull that off, in which we probably can actually very well. Like as you mentioned with the cheetah rolls, you can play like a Reggie Powers III who's fast enough and big enough to play not only linebacker but also safety in coverage. Samuel Mosigo, them two mixing it up. But I'm gonna be honest, I am a little concerned about Eli Bowen when it comes to this game, and it's only because Eli does a really good job of jumping routes and jumping plays. Like we saw him do that against Alabama, where he read that screen coming, he immediately jumped it, got the pick. And he was doing that a lot when he was following around Ryan Williams. That's the type of misdirection I would expect from Navy to try to bait him into doing that stuff. And because we are a very aggressive defense, that is the only concern I can see with some of the secondary players. They're going to jump a lot earlier than they should, going after those passes, trying to catch that. Because if you do it right, you're going to get a pick six. You're gone, guaranteed. So with him and Jacoby, I'm hoping that there's not too much. I'm hoping that they don't get pulled in too much and get too excited to see, I know what they're going to do and do it. And then they go like a pump and go type play. And you're like, oh no, you got a safety, got to figure out covering two guys. That's the only thing I'm really concerned about. But for the most part, I do expect a lot of tackles for loss. I think the defense should be fine in this game.
Yeah, I think defense is gonna eat just like it's done all year, and it again has been the brightest spot of Oklahoma's defense, even without Danny Stutzman, without Billy Bowman, without Deshaun McCullough. I think there's a lot of talent there, and that's going to be exciting to see because that's a lot of the core of what your 2025 defense is going to look like moving forward. What are some keys to the game? What's our prediction for this week? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
The NFL playoffs are almost here, but not too late to get onto the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season off strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So if you want to take advantage of it, right now, the Sooners are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Feels like a really low spread, but hey, it may be on the dot. So if you want to take advantage of that, just hit up FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, give me a key on the offense or defensive side of the ball for this game against Navy.
Establishing the line of scrimmage. When it comes to running the offense, I talk about I want to see Michael Hawkins throw the ball. Yes, you still got to run it. Still going to need to run it down their throat. You're going to need to go ahead and get some good yardage. That way you've got seconds and shorts instead of thirds and longs. If you establish that early and just keep that physicality going, the game should be able to come to you a lot more naturally. You'll make it a lot easier for Michael Hawkins in the throws. And you can take some shots early. So if it's 2nd and 2, go deep. You don't ever just go for the first down at that point. Go deep. See if you can get a big chunk play. And then if not, 3rd and 2, you run the ball back down and you get that first down. So that's the one thing I think offensively we're going to have to do in order to make sure we own the time of possession in this game.
Navy's pass rush ranks 90th according to Pro Football Focus. 93rd in the nation according to Pro Football Focus. Where's Oklahoma's weakness been on offense? Protecting the passer.
Pass rush.
So I think this is one of those situations where, yes, if you're asking Michael Hawkins to drop back to pass, the offensive line should be able to hold up and give him time in pass protection. But I think you're right, man. You got to establish the line of scrimmage. I think it's just what we talked about also on both sides of the ball. You got to stay disciplined. You can't get away from what you do well on offense. And then on defense, you just got to be disciplined to what your keys are and what your responsibilities are. You can't get outside of the team defense mentality trying to make a play. That's what's made Oklahoma so good over the last couple of years is when they have played good team defense, they've been really, really hard to beat. When they get outside of that and they start to, try to do too much, one guy here, one guy there, that's when they kind of lose themselves a little bit. And that's when they get gashed for big runs or allow a big play in the passing game. So I think those are going to be the kind of the biggest keys. Who's the one player that you're hoping you get to see a lot of that maybe you haven't seen a lot of this year?
Defensively, I want to see Danny Akoye. That's who I want to see get out there on the field and see him and PJ Adebaware both playing on those two edges and Danny playing more of a jack row, getting really just being aggressive on his attack. Let him go one-on-one with those tackles. That's what I want to see more of. Like, I know, our Mason Thomas is playing and the expectation he's going to be back next year. Then you got your seniors and Ethan Downs, as well as Trace Ford playing at your other edges or whatnot. But I really want to see more Danny. I'm ready to see him break out in preparation for next season. Offensively, give me some Von Mitchell. BV mentioned him in the press conference today talking about, he's gotten better and he's a very punishing blocker, blah, blah, blah. Awesome. Put him on the field. Let that man catch some passes from his old quarterback. Yep. Let me see that happen. And then at that point, I'll be excited. That's the two players I really want to see the most of.
Yeah, Devon Mitchell's got so much ability. It's time to start seeing it. That's the thing that as people kind of get concerned about Oklahoma's tight end recruiting and portal additions and things like that, I keep going back to that guy. Like, that's the guy that, if he is who everybody thinks he's going to be, then 2025 is the year that he emerges and is that guy. And I think he's got the ability to go be a difference maker next year, but maybe we get to start seeing it this year or this week. Eddie Pierre-Louis. I know he hasn't been a starter on the offensive line. He's not listed as a starter this week, but man, now's the time to get him some snaps, get him on the field, get him some run against the Navy team that, again, you want to try to establish the run. Let Eddie Pierre-Louis get out there and just get after guys. Just go and be a punishing physical player like we've already seen him be in some of the limited action that he's had. Defensively, Reggie Powers, man, got to go RP3. That's the guy I want to see more of. I listen, he's been dynamic on special teams. He's helped you a lot. Let me see him more in a defensive role. I think he's ready to take that step. Also, everybody's going to point to Michael Boganowski because he just brings the thunder.
Get hit.
He is thunder. He is the Imagine Dragons song Thunder. That's all he is. So, all right, let's get to our final predictions. Jay, how do you think this one's going to go? What do you think the score is going to be?
All right, I think the Sooners go ahead and put this away with ease. I think first quarter, a couple of scores by the Sooners while holding Navy from scoring. But I'm going to be nice and say 30-10. I think the Sooners win the game.
Yeah, you're nicer than me. I think maybe I'm still kind of reeling from the regular season a little bit and maybe being a little bit of a hater with no Danny Stutzman and no Billy Bowman. I think 27-17. I think Oklahoma does win comfortably, but I think maybe a late score in the fourth quarter makes the game
backdoor cover.
It makes the game look a little bit closer than what we'd expect. But I do think it's one of those games where, and here's the thing too, Navy's going to try and control time of possession. So you're not going to get a whole lot of offensive possessions. So you're going to have to make every one of those count. And listen,
that's a fair point.
They may only be able to gain 3-4 yards of pop, but they're going to go for it a lot on fourth down. So if they can get close to the 50, it's 4-down territory for Navy. And they're going to convert some of those. It's just the nature of the beast. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them have a couple scoring drives and then a field goal somewhere in there. But yeah, I think Oklahoma is going to be able to win this fairly comfortably. If they can get to 30, man, I'll feel great about it. What does a win do for Oklahoma, though?
That's a good question. To me, I don't know if a win does a bunch besides just gives you a little momentum going into next year. This feels more like a quote-unquote glorified scrimmage, in my personal opinion. This is the opportunity to see what you have going forward. And that's more important to me than, honestly, the win. The win's great. You want to win games. Brent Venables needs his first bowl win, which is probably the most important piece if you talk about wins, is BV doesn't have a bowl win yet. This will be that opportunity. So he should be able to get that. But for me, a win really, the way they win tells me more about the win than just getting a win. If it was one of the regular season games and we just got the W by kicking a field goal with a couple of seconds left in the game and it was a nasty, I don't care. That's a win. A W's a W. This situation, though, John, this is a lot different. Brent Venables needs to really establish what this team's going to look like going forward. And by playing more young players, you'll get a better understanding of what's coming forward. The good thing is, its offensive line will be intact going next year. So far.
Yeah.
With a couple additional pieces. But you still got the same offensive line. You didn't have this blessing coming into this season. So for them, I need to see something out of them playing on the field more so than them just actually winning the game. What about you? How does a win lay for you?
I think the only thing the win does is gives all your young guys some confidence going into next year.
Right.
You still have to go improve it against your schedule next year. Like 2025 is going to be different than 2024. Michigan is going to be different than Navy. The SEC schedule will be different than Navy. So we're not going to go out of this, come away from this thing thinking if Oklahoma wins, or even if they win decisively by 20 or more, we're not going to come out of this thinking, oh man, Oklahoma's ready to go. No, we're gonna try to evaluate the individual performances, the performances of different units in this game, and especially of the young guys, and see who stepped up and who stood out and things like that. If Michael Hawkins goes out and has a great game, that's a positive step in the right direction for the young quarterback. So it's about taking steps, improving, and just showing that, hey, you have a team that is taking strides and making strides to getting better. And again, they're going to have to go prove it all over again next year. And really not prove it, but prove that they are a team capable of competing in the SEC, contending for a playoff spot, and pushing for 9 or 10 wins. Because it's going to be seeing is believing. I think for a lot of Oklahoma fans, probably for you and I, we're not going to be super high on this team going into next year until they can prove it on the field. But I think what this game can do, if you win it, is that it can provide some confidence for your young guys, especially if they play well. If a guy like Danny Akoye or Devon Mitchell, if they go out in this thing, they get 30 snaps in this game and they play well, that's a big confidence boost going into next year.
I 100% agree
where it matters. I think that's where it matters the most. If you lose the game, I don't really want to talk about what happens if you lose the game or what it means for Oklahoma if you lose the game. We'll talk about that. I think Oklahoma's winning, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. But if they lost the game, I think a lot of people would be not super pleased with the direction of the program.
Yeah, no, and rightfully so, you shouldn't be, because to me, you lose this game, that means that Michael Hawkins isn't ready.
Yeah.
And that just puts your mind directly on John Mateer next season, and that's it.
Yep.
This is the Michael Hawkins game of showing us, hey, no, that Auburn win was not a fluke. I can make this happen. The South Carolina game was a fluke, not the Auburn game. So he needs to determine that this is the one that does that for him. So for him, the focus is going to be getting rid of that ball and slinging it. He's going to have to pass it. Now, granted, if we hand the ball off and Xavier Robinson runs it 60 yards for a touchdown, or Gavin Sawchuk runs it 90 yards for a touchdown, I can't really say anything if we only throw the ball 15 times. But I need them to allow him to throw the ball 25 times so that we can see him throw it a lot and getting the ball out there and see the receivers doing stuff. The good thing is we know the wide receivers are going to block. The question is about them running their routes and catching the ball.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
Yeah, got to see this passing game start to do something productive, especially because the guys that are going to be playing a lot are going to be competing for jobs with your incoming transfers this offseason.
Exactly.
And we need to see them take some steps and make some things happen in the offense on Friday. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. Follow me at John9Williams. You can also read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can follow the show on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer Sooner.